which are on net zero, energy and transport. And again, if a member wishes to request a supplementary question, they should press the request to speak button or indicate so in the chat function by entering the letter R during the relevant question. I call question number 1, Graeme Simpson.
Thank you very much. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the report A Vision for Scotland's Railways produced for Scotland's rail unions.
Minister Graeme Dey.
The fact that the unions are sharing their ideas and views, and I look forward to discussing these with unions at our next meeting when we arrange that. However, be assured we are pressing ahead to put in place arrangements to mobilise a wholly owned company structure of the Scottish Government for the provision of ScotRail services following expiration of the current franchise. The new ScotRail operator, ScotRail Trains Limited, its management and staff will, I'm sure, share with all of us and the general public a desire for ScotRail to be a world-leading railway service offering value to passengers and the wider economy whilst being financially and environmentally sustainable.
Graeme Simpson.
I thank the Minister for that answer. He didn't actually answer the question, of course, which was what was his response to the report. I'm not sure if he's read it. It's produced for Scotland's 4 rail unions, and at least it is a vision for the future. We've had nothing like that from the Minister so far, but ScotRail is going to be nationalised in March. We don't know anything about the governance, the staffing, timetables, tickets, rolling stock. We don't know if there are going to be redundancies, but we do know there's going to be a series of big bucks appointments. That's already in process. Can I ask the Minister if he would agree to cross-party talks on nationalisation? Will he agree to make a statement on where we are with this? We're only a few months away, and will he also involve the unions?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, I'll tell you what we won't do, which is what the Tory government's doing south of the border and slashing billions of pounds from rail services. With regard to the various questions that the member asked, I'm actually in the process of writing to the Net Zero Committee, to the convener, his colleague, to outline some of the very information he's looking for, and that will be in the public domain within a matter of days. With regard to a statement, I'm more than happy to provide a statement to Parliament, subject to the Bureau's agreement early in the year. With regard to the report, yes, I have read it. I was given a copy ahead of its publication. There are a number of aspects of it I think we would all be in agreement with. There are some good suggestions in there. I'm sure Mr Simpson has many good suggestions to make as well, and I'm more than happy to meet him to hear those.
Question number 2, Michelle Thompson.
To ask the Scottish Government when it last met Falkirk Council to discuss public transport and connectivity within the rural areas of Falkirk East constituency and what was discussed.
Minister Graeme Dey.
Presiding Officer, Transport Scotland officials met Falkirk Council representatives on the 15th of November as part of the Forth Valley Regional Transport Working Group, which was established to facilitate collaborative working and engagement for the second Strategic Transport Projects Review. Attendees discussed the emerging draft recommendations, which follows extensive engagement during the course of the review on the transport problems and the opportunities in the region.
Michelle Thompson.
That answer. Many people in the outlying areas of my constituency of Falkirk East feel that they've been left adrift by private companies driven by profit. And whilst I understand that the number of passengers is still below pre-COVID levels, this doesn't mean to say that communities should be cut off for the want of regular and reliable public transport. With that in mind, can the Minister outline what support and encouragement the Scottish Government is providing to local authorities like Falkirk to provide public transport and connectivity to communities, particularly at this stage in the pandemic, and what further steps it's taking to ensure public transport is run for the benefit of our communities and citizens and not just shareholders?
Minister.
During the pandemic, we've maintained concessionary travel reimbursement and bus operators grant payments at pre-COVID levels and have made available up to £210 million in additional funding to the end of this financial year. The bus operators receiving that additional funding are not allowed to make a profit and are required to adapt services to current demand, have regard to maintaining connectivity and keep services under review in consultation with local transport authorities and the Health Board. COVID support funding is in addition to that provided to local authorities through the block grant for supporting socially necessary service. That sum of money totals £57 million in 2019-20. Looking to the future, the Transport Act 2019 provides local transport authorities with a range of enhanced options to improve bus services in their area, and we are presently analysing responses to the consultation on the secondary legislation required to implement these.
And supplementary, Stephen Kerr.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Rural villages across Falkirk would benefit from safer streets and improved connectivity. Will the Minister, indeed, agree to an urgent review of Scottish Government policy and guidance with regards to 20-mile-per-hour zones in rural villages, especially in the villages of Reading-Muirhead and Airth, where residents have long campaigned for such zones to support Falkirk Council to meet community demands?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, we covered that specific issue extensively in the member's recent members' debate, and as he well knows, we have plans to bring forward a review of the presumptions around 20-mile zones across the whole of Scotland, not just in his region.
Question number 3, Joe Fitzpatrick, who's joining us remotely.
It will provide an update on its pilots to provide free bicycles.
Mr Fitzpatrick, I'm sorry, we didn't hear the very beginning of your question. Could you please repeat your question from the beginning? Thank you.
Sorry, to ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on its pilots to provide free bicycles for school-aged children.
Minister Patrick Harvie.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On the 17th of August, we announced the first 6 pilot projects selected to offer free bicycles for school-aged children who can't afford one. These pilots are currently underway across the country, and since then a further 4 pilots have been launched, including a pilot on Shetland and a pilot specialising in the provision of non-standard bikes, which are modified to fit the needs of an individual rider. To date, 242 bikes have been issued, and the pilots have ambitious plans to deliver considerably more this month and beyond.
Joe Fitzpatrick.
Thank the Minister for his answer. The Minister is, I know, aware that the Dundee Cycle Hub in my constituency, operated by Dundee and Angus Cycle Hub, is participating in the pilot project delivering free bikes for school-aged children in Dundee. I wonder if the Minister can provide any indication on the number of bikes that have been provided and are expected to be provided to children in Dundee over the course of the pilot.
Minister Patrick Harvie.
Yes, indeed. The Angus Cycle Hub pilot is based on a central bike distribution centre for the Angus and Dundee areas, with regional support provided by dedicated development workers and bike mechanics. This pilot is providing specialist support for young people and marginalised families in Angus and Dundee to engage with cycling, active travel, health and wellbeing opportunities. 105 bikes have been delivered to date. 127 additional applications for bikes have been received, and 502 bikes have been ready to go by the Angus Cycle Hub.
Question number 4, Claire Adamson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what support is available to residents in Motherwell and Wishaw who are in fuel poverty.
Cabinet Secretary Michael Matheson.
The Scottish Government's local area-based scheme and National Warmer Homes Scotland scheme are available in all areas of Scotland. These are designed to make homes warmer and cheaper to heat for those living in or at risk of fuel poverty. Since 2013, the Scottish Government has allocated over £21 million in funding for North Lanarkshire Council as part of our area-based scheme. Our winter support fund includes £10 million for a fuel insecurity fund, which will ensure direct financial support is available to those who are at risk of self-disconnection or self-rationing as a result of increased energy prices this winter.
Claire Adamson.
Thank the Cabinet Secretary for his answer. The UK energy market is quite frankly broken. We see some of the highest energy prices in Europe, the highest hikes in recent months, and this is evidenced by the fact that so many of the providers are going into administration, causing more stress to my constituents who are already worried about the fuel poverty. What protections are in place for constituents who find themselves in the situation of an energy provider entering administration?
Cabinet Secretary.
Officer, I think the member makes a good point about the existing structural problems with the UK energy market, which is largely broken down into 2 types of company: those who have hedged on energy markets and those who are unhedged on energy markets. And the consequence of very significant spikes in energy wholesale prices has resulted in a significant number of those who are unhedged companies find themselves in very serious financial difficulty and, as a result, withdrawing from the market and leaving customers in difficult positions. You will be aware that the present structure of the regulation of the energy market is a responsibility of the UK Government. As it stands, a customer whose supplier is no longer able to provide them with a service, they are covered by Ofgem supplier of last resort process, which has been designed to minimise disruption in such an event where the customer should wait to be contacted by the new supplier that is allocated by Ofgem. However, if the member has any constituents who are experiencing difficulties with these issues with a new supplier, then they should contact Advice Direct Scotland directly, who will be able to provide them with advice and support on the issue.
And I'll call a supplementary from Liam Kerr, but he will of course be aware that the question per the Business Bulletin relates to the people of Motherwell and Wishaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It also relates to fuel poverty, and of course in March the UK Government awarded Aberdeen Council £2.2 million to retrofit homes to save households around £450 a year and keep them out of fuel poverty. Now, Aberdeen has a great deal of older granite housing stock, so decarbonisation will present huge costs. So what estimates has the Scottish Government done of the cost of retrofitting these granite houses, and what financial help will be given to Aberdeen Council to tackle this older and specific granite housing stock?
Before I ask the Cabinet Secretary to respond to that, could I just stress that the question on the Business Bulletin, of course, says what support is available to people in the Motherwell and Wishaw constituency who are in fuel poverty. I think that's quite clear, but obviously the Cabinet Secretary presumably would be able to respond to Mr Kerr's supplementary.
What I can say, Deputy Presiding Officer, is that granite properties in the constituency of Motherwell and Wishaw, I suspect, will be of a similar difficulty in being able to tackle some of the insulation issues that they may have, as they have in areas such as the north east of Scotland. What I can say to the member is that I do welcome the very small amount of investment that's been made by the UK Government to try and assist in some of this work. However, he will be mindful that we have invested some £430 million over the course of the period since 2013 in this area alone. And we've increased our funding this year yet again in order to help to support the area-based scheme, so it can assist local authorities in areas such as Motherwell and Wishaw, and of course also in areas such as the north east of Scotland going forward.
Question number 5, Finlay Carson.
To ask the Scottish Government what it is doing to improve road safety on the trunk road network.
Minister Graham Day.
Presiding Officer, Scotland has some of the safest roads in the world, but despite the success, each collision and injury is traumatic for everyone involved, and more remains to be done to reduce collisions. We've achieved substantial reductions in accidents and casualties through targeted programmes of investment on trunk roads and joint working with road safety partners. Members might wish to know that across 42 assessed countries in Europe and beyond, Scotland currently has the 8th lowest fatality level, but we are not complacent in any way at all, and we continue to look at where we can make further improvements.
And Finlay Carson.
Thank the Minister for his response. As he will be aware, a trial on the A9 for HGVs over 7.5 tonnes raised speed limits from 40 to 50 miles an hour. This move brought it in line with other trials taking part in the rest of the UK, which critically has resulted in a steady reduction in the number of collisions and casualties, as it addressed one of the main frustrations, and that's driver frustrations with slow-moving lorries. In the last 5 years, there's been 170 accidents in the A75, 9 of which were fatal. As the main route to the ferry ports of Kinryan, there is a disproportionately high number of HGVs on the road compared with other trunk roads. So while the Scottish Government commit to reviewing HGV speed limits along the A75 with appropriate speed cameras to improve safety and reduce fatalities as a matter of urgency.
Minister.
Presiding Officer, the Department for Transport published their 3-year evaluation on the effects of increasing speed limits in England and Wales, but that showed that there was statistically no significant change in the number of accidents involving at least one HGV on all single and dual carriageway roads. That said, we will use the evaluation from that alongside the A9 project, and indeed we are using that because as part of the National Speed Management Review set out in the delivery plan for the recently published Scotland's Road Safety Framework to 2030, that is a work stream and it has commenced.
And supplementary, Maggie Chapman.
Can I thank the Minister for the information he's provided? Can I ask specifically about average speed cameras and how they can improve safety? What analysis has been done on both the A9 and A90, given the introduction of average speed cameras on those roads? And could those same mechanisms be applied on the A96?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, I'm happy to write to the member with the analysis that she's looking for. But with regard to the A96, we deploy safety cameras where they have the greatest potential to reduce injury collisions and where there's evidence of both collisions and speeding. On the A96, there are a number of mobile camera sites, including a new site at Baines Hall, which became operational in April 2021. Regular camera deployments continue to take place to encourage good driver behaviours, compliance with the speed limit and a continued high level of safety on that route.
Question number 6, Liz Smith.
To ask the Scottish Government what progress it has made in 2021 to adopt greener bus transport across Scotland.
Minister Graham Day.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government committed over £71 million in the year to 31st March 2021, supporting the purchase of 272 zero-emission buses awarded under the Scottish Ultra-Low Emission Bus Scheme and unlocking over £71 million of private investment from bus operators. A new Scottish Zero Emission Challenge Fund was launched this year, aiming to support the bus, finance and energy sectors to establish a self-sustaining market for zero-emission buses and infrastructure. Bids have been submitted and are currently being assessed. This will further support significant change in the bus market in favour of zero-emission technologies.
Liz Smith.
Could I thank Mr Day for his answer? And he's well aware that improving both bus and train transport is absolutely key in terms of persuading the public to go green rather than rely on extensive use of their cars. So can I ask Mr Day what his reaction is to the fact that First Buses have cancelled altogether the X53 service from Stirling to St Andrews and that Stagecoach has reduced the X56 service between Perth and Edinburgh, both of which are causing constituents across Mid-Scotland and Fife very serious inconvenience?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, as I outlined in a previous answer, the relationship between the Scottish Government and the bus operators at this time is very clearly laid out. I think one of those services that she's referring to will be the subject of a members' debate next week, when we'll be able to explore that in detail. Clearly, we want to encourage the bus operators, especially during the pandemic, to maintain as many services as possible, recognising, of course, that some of the issues that have arisen with the buses are down to driver shortages.